Hello, people, listeners. It is time for another fine episode.
Join us, won't you?
Yes, I am Corey.
My name is Matthew.
And welcome to another fine episode of Corey and Matt talk about, hey, stuff.
So very fun.
This episode is being recorded on November 17th, 2013. And we're going to be talking about a few things this episode. We've got a little housekeeping at the beginning regarding some local happenings. We're going to kind of wrap up our impressions of NC Comicon and the ComiQuest Film Festival. A little bit about the X-Men Days of Future Past trailer. The bulk of our podcast, so the whole back half and beyond, is our review of Thor, The Dark World.
It is a revoir of the Dark World.
So, we saw Thor, The Dark World last night. We'll talk about that and its ramifications for the Marvel Cinematic Universe and other geekery things. Come to think, there was...
Ramifications, motherfucker.
Yes. There's probably more I wanted to say about Thor, but oh well. We'll save that for another day.
They'll get to hear plenty about Thor.
At any rate, listen for the music. We'll be back with you in a minute.
See you then. I think I just saw Tom Snyder's Ghost.
We are rolling now, so I got your Tom Snyder joke. So
Hot damn. Because you don't want to waste a Tom Snyder's Ghost.
Exactly.
Watch the pictures as they fly through the air.
That sounded kind of like an Abe McMahon laugh, but he laughed like Abe McMahon.
Yeah, they're not dissimilar.
Yeah.
Tom and Ed.
Okay, so first of all, some housekeeping.
Housekeeping.
Okay, so
does that work?
We've worn that.
I wonder if you can. We'll ask people later.
Well, it does make a thumping noise.
Yeah, okay, I couldn't tell if
you'd call it a knock per se, but
right.
Maybe
chocolate.
That's a little better. Anyway, so in case you missed it last week, and we're going to be bombarding you on social media about it, but let me reiterate. On December 6th at 7 p.m., roughly, there's going to be a showing of Gojira at the Carolina Theater, and we will be sponsoring that showing.
Boom!
Kapowie! So we would love it if all of y'all would come out. And also, I saw on Facebook today, or my friend Matthew informed me.
Look at it and behold the truth of it.
That this is going to be the last American showing for the foreseeable future,
or conceivable future.
Either way,
I can't even conceive of
any
it.
future of which you can conceive or foresee.
That's the one we're talking about.
Yes, it's that future. But anyway, this is going to be the last American showing of Gojira for who knows how long, because of course next year is, of course, the big screen Godzilla is coming back, and it's Godzilla's 60th anniversary.
60th, so they're putting it in the vault like Disney does.
Yep, they're sealing it up because there's going to be, of course, all sorts of Blu-ray and DVD crap for you to spend money on.
So what you're saying, Corey, is that if a human being wants to watch the original Gojira on the big screen
in all of America,
they've got one mo-fucking chance to do it.
Exactly.
And that's Friday.
That's Friday, December 6th, 7-ish p.m. I say 7-ish because it's a fine retro tradition that these shows do not start on time. So
you should still come at 7.
Certainly.
Because you can get your seat, get your snacks.
Sign up for door prizes.
Yeah, and there are going to be some extra things.
Yep. Oh, that's right. Oh, no.
No, extra things are next week. Yep. But anyway, it's going to be a blast. It's going to be super fun for America. And yes, the movie proper will probably show around 7:40.
Yep. And you want to come and avoid the shunning that we warned you about so vehemently last time. Let us warn you again.
Look.
Do not be shunned.
We don't want to have to shun you, but by God, we will.
It brings us no pleasure, but we will.
I mean, it brings us some pleasure.
Well, depends on who you are. We enjoy shunning some of you, no doubt.
So, yeah, everybody within the sound of our voices, and even those outside the sound of our voices, should go to it.
People in the sound of our voice should tell the people outside the sound of our voice. That's what we want to happen.
And just tell them, look, do you seriously want to be shunned?
Why would you? Why? Why bring that on yourself and your family?
Avoid it.
Generations to come.
It's it's a stain that will not erase.
Exactly. Will refuse to be wiped clean. So, yeah, what we're saying is y'all should come see that movie because it's awesome, and we're sponsoring it, and we love you. So yeah, do that. Since we briefly mentioned it, also this coming weekend at the Carolina Theater. Mm-hmm. This is Friday, November 22nd.
Sounds right. Yep.
There's going to be a pretty cool showing of Total Recall and Life Force, and it's the 15th?
16th, I think.
Anniversary?
Yeah, it's an anniversary of the Retro Phantasma film series at the Carolina Theater, so they're going to put a little extra stank on it.
Yeah,
they're going to have like gift bags and
some extra door prizes, that kind of thing. So we are not sponsoring that, but we will be there, and it'll be cool.
Go.
So yeah, you should come out.
Well, first of all, Total Recall is an awesome. It's a combination of it's a weird movie because it's a combination of a very good science fiction short story by Philip K. Dick, and also an over-the-top, balls-out, late 80s, early 90s Arnold Schwarzeneggerian.
Yep. At his peak, the height of his power.
Science fiction extravaganza.
Yep.
So if you peel away all the crap, even if you don't like that kind of thing, there's still a really decent science fiction story embedded in the whole thing. So you can enjoy it on multiple levels is what I'm trying to tell you.
Yep. And you can and you should, and if you come out, you will.
And then Life Force.
Yep. Life Force is, I think it's a good movie.
I do too. It's a decent movie. It's directed by Tobe Hooper of Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Poltergeist fame.
Yep.
And it is a good movie. However, let me ask you something, my friend.
Ask it.
Is there any reason that one might want to watch Life Force, even if one were in no way interested in the movie itself?
Are we talking about besides hetero males and lesbians, or?
No, I think that's the group.
Yeah.
So if you were a hetero male or a lesbian, why might you want to watch Life Force regardless of the content of the movie?
Because Matilda May's glorious nude form is on display for minutes at a time.
Long time. This is not like Friday the 13th where the starlet pops out her boobs for like 3 seconds.
Yep. Just to get that R.
Matilda May, who is as gloriously a good-looking woman as there was at the time. Still a fine-looking woman.
By today's standards, yes, sir.
Absolutely. But back then, she was as hot as it got, son. And she walks around buck naked for extended periods of time.
Exactly. So if that's your thing,
if you would want to see anything that,
heaven forbid, we don't encourage that sort of thing. Here at the Corey and Matt podcast.
No, certainly not. We're not saying it's appropriate, but we want to appeal to all subgroups. Exactly. And if that's the sort of thing you might like to see on the big screen,
then you can.
It's available for you.
Exactly. It can be seen.
It's right there.
And things like that don't happen. Modern movies, you don't get that.
No, you certainly do not.
So much less modern science fiction movies. At any rate, two very fine films for a variety of reasons, whatever yours might be. Also, if you have not, you should check out all of our social media locations. They're all linked at CoreyandMatt.com. That's Corey, C-O-R-E-Y, not C-O-R-Y. It is the right and proper spelling of Corey, C-O-R-E-Y.
All other spellings are apocryphal.
Are apocryphal and incorrect, and they must be pitied for their parents not being able to afford an E.
We're looking at you, Mr. Dr. O.
Exactly.
Look, man, maybe your EL's great-great-nephew or not. We don't know, but your name is spelled wrong. We know that.
Yep. So that's how that is. So you can toddle on over to CoreyandMatt.com, and we've got links to our Twitter and our Facebook and our Tumblr, although CoreyandMatt.com is our Tumblr, so that's redundant. But anyway, you can happen upon us via Tumblr as well. YouTube, we're hoping to get iTunes up and rolling pretty soon. Fingers crossed. It's turning out to be a little more complex than I thought, but we're working on it. At any rate, go follow, friend, listen, whatever it is you do to all these things.
Yeah, if anybody has any hosting they want to donate for free,
yeah, that'd be pretty hot.
You let us know.
Yep.
You drop a message on us at CoreyandMatt.com.
For that matter, drop us a message of any kind. If
any kind you want.
Things you would like us to discuss. If it's, cursing upon our generations, we wouldn't appreciate that as much, but we'll
take
be
it.
happy you're listening.
Exactly. We'll take it. We'll accept it. You could comment about the Star Treks.
Yep.
You could say something about the Star Trek.
Star Trek.
You could say something about the Space Wars.
With
anything you want. we don't care what you comment on.
Yep. So do that.
Tell us what the weather's like in your part of the woods. It doesn't matter.
I'm sure it's not as fine as here in lovely North Carolina.
How could it be?
So let's see. What do we have? Of course, last weekend, and this is why we are a week late with our episodes, we had the glorious NC Comicon and ComiQuest Film Festival.
Woo! Jesus.
We were both in attendance for that. And what'd you think there, sir?
Holy cow, you just can't have more fun in 2 days, legally.
With your clothes on.
Maybe without. I mean, depending on how successful you are at that kind of thing.
Yep.
But it was awesome. It was packed. There was a lot of enthusiasm. Cosplay everywhere. I'm not sure how to talk about the cosplay anymore because I like the cosplay because a lot of times attractive women are wearing slinky outfits. Maybe that's bad. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Maybe you're not allowed to say that anymore. I don't know what the rules are.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to stare you down like, I'm a hungry wolf and you are a porterhouse steak. I'm not going to stare you down, but I do appreciate what you're doing for me right now by wearing that costume. The screenings were all very enthusiastic and generally packed to the gills.
I believe Ninja Turtles sold out at least once.
Sure did, yeah. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles sold out. Maybe more than that. I don't know. I haven't talked to our pal Jim Carl at the Carolina Theater yet. But anyway, by any rational human's measure, it seemed to have been an overwhelming success.
Yep.
I had a lot of fun times. My personal favorite moment was I was sitting in the lobby of the Carolina Theater, and I was able to listen to a probably 35-minute drunken rant from an extremely attractive young woman doing cosplay. And that's the sort of thing you don't just get to do every weekend.
Exactly. I think I came in for the tail end of that. I think she was supposed to be Lara Croft.
Yes. Well, no, she wasn't, actually.
Really?
And there was I can't remember the character.
I'm not hip enough.
That's what probably not, and neither am I. But someone came, in fact, two people during the course of the drunken rant, and the drunken rant sounded something like this. I wasn't picking up many words.
Right.
It was like, penis. It was extremely profane, sprinkled with sexual innuendo, and not really even innuendo a lot of the time, but just a direct description of her sex life.
Yep.
And a couple people happened by and asked her, or said, "Oh, nice Lara Croft outfit." In which case, there was another semi-long drunken rant about how she was not Lara Croft. She was, in fact, Hilda Blankenshire or whoever the hell she was. But she said, but I understand it's shorty shorts and the top with the boobs spilling out of the top and the gun, so it looks like Lara Croft. So she was giving people a pass, but that was not, in fact, what she was. I can't remember what the name of the character was, but she told two people that she wasn't Lara Croft.
Well, I stand corrected then. If she's listening, which I doubt, I apologize for that. I was very pleased. I got in line to buy some movie tickets, and there was somebody up there wearing a Thor helmet. The one from the movie.
Nice.
A very fine, shiny Thor helmet. No other Thor paraphernalia, but a Thor helmet.
Well, I guess they figured, hell, I spent all my money on the helmet,
Yeah,
I'm going to wear it.
Get some fucking use out of it. Get my money's worth. So I would have liked to have caught more movies, but there's only so much time in a day.
That's right.
And when you sleep past noon like I do, that doesn't leave a lot.
Well, that's logical.
Exactly.
If you can't sleep in on a Saturday, what the hell's your life for?
So, but certainly we caught Megaforce.
Well, sure.
What can you say about Megaforce? It's a spectacle.
If you haven't seen Megaforce, boy, I don't know what to tell you. You're not living. You're not making any headway with your life. Go see that.
You're missing out. You really are.
Let's see. I caught God, it went by in a blur.
Saw Buck Rogers.
Saw right? Buck Rogers in the 25th century. That was glorious.
Superman 2. We both caught.
And knew that was going to be a ton of fun. And
lovely.
Indeed it was.
Theater. Yeah. And I did a couple laps around the convention. I was a little... It looked like, for all intents and purposes, it took up every bit of available space in the hotel. I don't think there was anything else going on or any room left unused by the convention. They were spilled out into the lobby, meeting rooms, you name it. If like they said, it was even bigger than last year. I'm a little fuzzy on last year, but I don't know how it could be much bigger because there just ain't no hotel left to move into.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, it when I arrived on Saturday, the lines were spilling out across the square almost to Morgan Street. It was huge attendance.
Yeah, basically out every entrance to the hotel.
Yep.
And this time, spread out into the Carolina Theater, the various lobbies and seating areas and the courtyard out front, and so it was just one big mega complex of convention and comic book fun times. The whole weekend.
You could turn in any direction and see happy nerd stuff.
Yep. Had the Batmobile out there, and the Mystery Machine. I don't think they had the DeLorean out there this time. I don't think so.
No. So, did they have Ecto 1? Trying to remember. I think it was just the 2, right?
Yeah. I don't recall seeing any other vehicles outside. I would have remembered an Ecto 1 because that's something I'd stop and look at.
Well, sure. Who wouldn't?
And last year, I think the Batmobile and the Mystery Machine are the same people, right? And the DeLorean's yet another group.
Yep.
And if anybody's, I don't know who Ecto is, but I remember we saw an Ecto at Heroes Con.
We sure did.
So I don't know where they get around to, but yeah, it was awesome, and they've already set up the dates for next year, so they're going to do it again, and we'll be there again, and there'll be another ComiQuest Film Festival. I think it'll be interesting to see what movies end up getting selected for that, because comic book movies of that vintage are hard to come by.
They really are.
Comic book movies are really more of a, I think, like 1999 and up kind of thing. Basically, when the first X-Men came out, I think kind of kicked it off. Would you?
Yeah, you'd have to look really hard. I'm sure they could find. Obviously, there are other. They made several of the Adam West old-style Batman movies. That wasn't the only one that they did.
Yeah,
they did a couple of those, so they could do some more of those. The big one they obviously skipped this time was Superman 1.
Yeah.
They could screen Superman 3 for the hell of it.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some you just have to be. I don't know if the 70s. I don't know if there was ever a 70s Spider-Man movie. I know there was a 70s Spider-Man TV show.
Yeah, although the way they did stuff back then, they could have released something theatrical because, of course, that's what they did with Buck Rogers and Battlestar Galactica, so it's possible.
And they were smart to, Jim and whoever else did the programming was smart to say, we're going to program things that are of an ilk. In other words, they didn't do strictly comic books. Dick Tracy obviously was a comic strip.
Right.
So that opens it up for Flash Gordon possibly to be screened next year.
Certainly.
So
and they can always get that one.
Yep.
They've screened that before. Certainly, they blurred the edges of the genre a bit because you had Danger Diabolic, which is, fairly unknown in America. And so I suppose the 89 Batman at this point is old enough for them to show.
Oh, yeah, that would be a good one. So. And not only that, I was just thinking, they showed Megaforce, which really was not a comic book movie in any conceivable way.
Certainly
it was
comic booky. But
it was advertised heavily in comic books. Yep. I remember that as a kid. But yeah, really, it never had any direct. But there's more than you think. If you go to...
Yeah, that's probably true.
If you go to have a look at Wikipedia and have, there's some really old Superman movies. There's a 1951 Superman theatrical release.
Yeah. They got some Batman of that era as well.
I'm kind of thinking they ought to show Abar, the first black Superman. Now, I don't know what the hell that is. I just saw that on Wikipedia. It's a movie from 1977 called Abar, A-B-A-R, the first black Superman.
Well, let's see if Jim can get that.
And then, of course, 77. There's a 1978 Doctor Strange theatrical release listed here. Never heard of it. But there it is. Ooh, 81's Condor Man.
Oh.
They could do that. That would be awesome.
I thought that was awesome as a kid. I remember I saw it on TV, but I thought that was the shit.
Me too. Now that I'm looking at it, they could do another whole... Here's something other. They could do Condor Man. They could do Swamp Thing. I'd totally forgotten that came out in 82. Supergirl, Toxic Avenger, Howard the Duck. So but that's really, there's not a lot. You're right. There's not many.
Enough to get another year out of it.
At least another year's worth,
so before they really have to start reaching.
Yep.
But, that's cool. That's cool. So, at any rate, along about November of next year, keep your eyes out. I'm sure if we're still podcasting at that point, we'll certainly be talking about it.
So, for sure.
And hopefully our fortunes have lifted and we're famous and known throughout the city.
Yes. Well, hopefully
podcasters of note.
We'll be doing the podcast having just pulled our heads out of caviar and giant piles of cocaine.
Exactly.
Hey, put down the cocaine. We got to make the podcast.
Here's the thing.
Sorry, dude. Sorry, let's go. We don't know anything about drugs.
No.
We just imagine that's how it would be.
Just think it would probably be wretched, especially on two guys our age.
We're so innocent. Did you hear how we were trying to pretend like our post-drug impersonation? Because we have no idea. We drank a beer.
Yeah.
Good times.
So what else is going on? We talked a little bit about the X-Men trailer at the tail end of the last episode. We got another look at it last night.
Yes.
Ahead of Thor. So did we have any lingering thoughts about that? I know overall we kind of came away with different impressions of it.
Right.
I thought it was fine. I didn't think it was an awesome trailer. Contrasted with the Captain America trailer, which I thought looked awesome.
Right.
And you thought they were both awesome, but that the X-Men trailer was more awesome.
Right. Yeah, just tonality is what I was looking for in the trailer. And I think with superhero movies, the constant danger is that you're going to be so silly that no one's going to be able to invest emotionally. And it looks like they weren't going to let that happen with Days of Future Past. Now, will they, sink down into being too maudlin to be enjoyable? That's certainly the danger, and that's what you might initially get from that trailer. I just thought they were trying to set up some resonant emotional beats and not reveal too much in a first trailer.
Right.
So I thought it was effective in that sense.
Yeah, and, well, it's hard to come at it because, from the perspective of somebody who does not know the X-Men mythos.
Right.
Because, of course, I know what the story's about, so I can watch the trailer and go, okay, this is where this, and, yep, okay, so I know what's good. Minus the stuff that they've changed, of course. I don't realize a lot of it. But I know in broad strokes what's happening in the story. Somebody who does not does not know that, I don't know what they're coming away from the theater with. So, I guess, I don't know how much they could get out of it, really. There's old Professor X talking to young Professor X, so I assume they'd get the time travel angle from it. So, yeah, I really do think they were not trying to tell you what it's about, because I think trying to encapsulate it for an audience that does not know what it's about, trying to fit that into a couple-minute trailer, they're just not going to be able to do it.
No, it really was a teaser.
Yeah.
In the traditional sense, and we don't see those a lot anymore. It was a teaser trailer. It's not meant to tell you the story. And, to contrast it with the Captain America trailer was awesome and balls out, but, I mean, surely we've already seen the giant set piece of Captain America in the trailer.
Yep, that is the danger you run. Because, they showed a helicarrier crashing into, I don't know, the Potomac River or something like that.
Something, yeah.
Something around Washington, D.C. So, because I was thinking about that. I was like, ooh, I wanted to see a Sentinel. But then I was like, do I really want to? Would I rather wait for the movie to spring that on me?
Right.
It's kind of like the old Iron Man 2 trailer where he busted out the briefcase armor.
Yep.
I was like, that's badass, but I might have rather had that sprung on me, So
It's tough.
It's a fine line.
Making a trailer is a complicated process. You've got a short amount of time, and the brilliant editors do it very well, but you're always playing a guessing game of how much is too much.
Yep. So, but anyway, it did a fine job of setting up, I think, the emotion and giving you just the general impression that something important is at stake here. I do worry a little bit that it might be too maudlin, but yeah, we'll just have to wait and see on that.
Yeah, there's no way to know until you know. Bryan Singer has never made a movie I didn't enjoy, so I don't have too much worry about it.
Yeah, it's one of those cases. The trailer didn't look terrible, and I have faith in the director and the people making it. So
I even like Superman Returns.
There you go. I didn't think it was as terrible as a lot of people do. I didn't, what you say, care for it, but I think it gets a lot of unwarranted scorn, and I think a second Superman movie following that one could have been fine. So.
I don't know about the scorn is really, to my mind, neither warranted nor unwarranted. If you didn't like it, you didn't like it. Now, my problem with a lot of the criticism of Superman Returns, this is a rat hole, but I'll be brief. My problem with the criticism of Superman Returns is it doesn't make any friggin' sense, because a lot of the criticism of the movie revolves around things that made it referential to and reverential of the original Richard Donner Superman movies.
Mm-hmm. So if you didn't like those, you're automatically biased against it.
Well, yeah, but everybody, for example, everybody laughed at what Tim Burton had planned for Superman.
Right.
So, I think Singer tried to return to the original two Richard Donner Superman movies, and to me, that's the only valid criticism, is that you could say Bryan Singer was too timid about separating himself from those movies.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And as you said, this is a rat hole, so we'll leave it at that. But maybe it'd be a good conversation for maybe a Man of Steel discussion.
Oh, there you go. We need to talk about that.
Yeah, that just came out on DVD. I have not rewatched it. So
yeah, maybe we could do that this week, and that could be on next week.
Yeah, I wouldn't know enough about it to give it a fair review this time, but yeah, that's definitely something we could talk about. So
Maybe do a whole Superman show, really.
Yeah, we could. Absolutely. So if you listeners have ideas for theme shows, let us know. We can do that. So last night we saw Thor.
The Dark World.
Yes, indeed. And you had already seen it, but it's the first chance I got to see it. And spoiler alert.
Spoilers everywhere. Spoilers, man.
If you don't want to know what happens, you should just stop listening at this point.
We are going to talk about Thor as much detail as we choose to.
Pretty much the rest of the show. So,
yeah, if you don't want to know what happens in Thor the Dark World, you better go, have dinner.
Bail out. I will post in the show notes the exact length of the spoiler conversation so that you can skip it if you want. But we pretty much covered all the other ground we wanted to, so it's going to be Thor pretty much from here out. We may transition out into a general discussion of Thor comics and such. So, at any rate, I liked it. I thought it was pretty good, about on par with the first one, I'd say. As always, it's nice to not have to worry about origin stories and getting everything introduced and, just to be able to get on with the show.
What would you give it out of 10?
Out of 10? 7 maybe?
Yeah, I'd say 6.
Yeah.
So, yeah, right
close.
there.
Yeah.
I would have given the first one a 6 as well.
Yep, there you go.
So, yeah, I thought it was, as you said, very much on par with the first Thor.
Yep. And I'm pretty much same boat. I would have said 7-ish, and it's not a hard 7. I could be talked down to a 6.
Yeah, and I could be talked up to a 7. On the other hand, I don't think you could move it to a 5, and I don't think it can get to an 8 either.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, I think 6 or 7 is about right.
So, yeah, I didn't come out with, and I've had a night to think about it now. I did not come out with any glaring things. There's not one thing I could point to. That really bugged me. This hurts the movie. For
Nothing
me.
that seriously detracted.
Right. I think my favorite thing about it, and there seems to be some division about this online, was the all the nice little nuggets for other Marvel movies and just the whole playing around of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
It was purely for comedic purposes, but I loved Captain America showing up in the middle of it.
Captain America has a brief cameo, not really.
Yeah, exactly. Not a
explain,
true cameo.
You want to explain how Cap shows up?
Well, it's Loki being a smartass, basically. He and Thor are walking down a hallway after Thor springs him from the joint, and Loki is, Thor's worried about drawing attention to themselves. So Loki's like, well, maybe if I had a disguise, and he turns into like a, average Asgardian trooper, or whatever. But of course, he's trying to antagonize Thor, so
he turns Thor into Sif.
Yeah, he turns Thor into Sif, and this happens as they're walking past columns. So it's a nice little editing, camera trickery, no special effects thing
required, right?
Yeah, so they walk past a column, and now he's somebody different. So they walk past one column, and there's Chris, what's his face? The guy who plays Captain America.
Chris Evans.
Thank you, Chris Evans.
That's why I'm here.
I get all my Chris's
That's why I get paid
up.
The big bucks.
So you get paid as much as I do. So, yeah, Chris Evans is suddenly there, hamming it up as Loki playing Captain America.
Yep.
So, he goes on about, did you want to have a conversation about truth?
Justice?
Justice? And he doesn't say the American way, but he says something similar.
Well, yeah, he I feel so strong and patriotic right now. God bless. And then Thor slams him into a column before he...
And he remarks on how tight the costume is. That's her. So it's a funny little gag there.
What's great about it is obviously it's the actor Chris Evans doing it.
Yeah.
So he did a good job, I thought, of because you think about it, and it seems obvious, but it's actually a pretty complex little piece of acting because he's playing Loki playing himself.
He's a dude playing a dude disguised as another dude.
I know who I am. So do a Tropic Thunder show too.
Yeah. We damn sure could.
But, yeah, so Chris Evans, yeah, and I thought he pulled it off well. Because he can't just be Captain America. He's got to be Loki pretending to be Captain America and put a little snarkiness and, hamminess into it, which I thought he did well.
Yeah. So that was awesome. Obviously, it had no bearing on the plot, but that was just a cool little moment.
Just fun.
I thought they did a good job with various things. I liked how, because I was wondering at the outset, how can this big world-threatening thing happen without some other Avengers getting involved? And, they basically dodged that by having most of the movie take place off Earth.
Right. They constructed the plot such that the milieu of the story was really Asgard and various realms that would only be that would tend to only be visited by Thor and his ilk.
Yep. They had I know they the first battle was in where you see Thor was in Vanaheim,
right?
And I'm not going to attempt to pronounce the other ones, but you see several of the 9 worlds, I
think there's Svartalheim or whatever it is, Trondheim.
Yep, and I think is Niflheim the
Frost
Giants.
Did you say Niflheim?
Niffle.
Oh, Niffle. That's a different.
Yeah.
Niffle. Yep, right. I think that popped up briefly. So I
think Niflheim is a strip club.
Niflheim. Don't. Thou art getting horny. So yeah, it took place in Thor's neighborhood.
Yep.
So you wouldn't expect to see Tony Stark.
Yep. The big finish was set on Earth, but it's essentially told in real time. So I mean,
yes, what, 15 minutes, 20 minutes,
if that. Yeah. So no superhero, and it was in Europe on top of that.
London.
So yep. They wouldn't have even had time, or was it London or Greenwich?
Oh well, yeah. They were in London for part of the story, but the actual climax of the story took place in Greenwich.
Yeah. So yeah, no chance for any other Avengers or anybody to get there anyway. So they totally didn't have to even discuss that.
Right.
So they dodged that rather well.
Deftly, I would say.
The villain, he was fine. I don't have anything really good or bad to say about the villain. His motivations were murky, but they kind of always are in these situations.
It was portrayed by what was the guy's name?
Eccleston.
Yeah, I know the actor, but what was the dark? He was a dark elf.
Malekith.
Yeah, Malekith, portrayed by Christopher Eccleston, the dude that portrayed the first incarnation of the newest Doctor Who.
Yep.
If you're not familiar with him.
The 9th? Yeah.
Yeah, and, he was only there for a season. But, my favorite Doctor, really. I know that's going to get me a lot of hate mail, but I liked him.
Might get you some love mail, too. As long as we get mail, though. Really.
Yeah, I don't care.
It's fine. But, yeah, he was, just a pretty papery villain. That said, it was fine because, you've got you've got your MacGuffin, the thing they need to fight for. You've got your villain who's trying to fight you for it, and I'm not asking for a lot more out of a Thor movie.
Right, and you're not going to get a lot more because we've talked about this a little bit, but Thor's kind of a one-note character. I'm impressed that they've done as much as they have done with him in the past 2 movies. Another criticism I read, and I would like to give credit to the person, but I just honestly can't. If I think of it, I read a million reviews, so I'll put in the show notes if I think about it, but I may not because I read probably a dozen reviews, and I'm not sure where it appeared. But anyway, maybe the Entertainment Weekly review, maybe. But the reviewer commented that this world-threatening, universe-threatening plot convention was getting tiresome, and I have to agree. I mean, it seems like every time at bat now, the stakes are not even the Earth, but reality itself.
Yeah, exactly.
Because in this movie,
every corner of the known universe.
Yeah, in Thor, in Thor: The Dark World, basically the story's taking place against the backdrop of something called what's it called?
The Convergence.
Convergence. I was going to say conjoining. That's twins that are born stuck together. The convergence is where all of the known universe, all reality is coming, basically intersecting at one time, in one point in space. So the villain, if he achieves his goal, is going to literally destroy everything that exists.
Yep.
So,
or turn it to darkness. I was a little fuzzy on what that meant for him, which is, I guess, one of the criticisms when we talk about not knowing the villain's motivation.
Yeah,
he wanted to win, but I'm not entirely sure why.
Was he just a nihilist and was happy to destroy himself and his species along with everything, or?
Yeah, I didn't know if returning the world to the universe to darkness meant that it still went on, and he was just the ruler of this new reality, or if it was just gone.
Right. So. And it mentioned it in the prologue, the little frontispiece or whatever in the front of the movie, that the dark elves emerged from the darkness before the light arrived in the universe. So maybe they could have continued to survive somehow.
Yeah.
Didn't look like it, really, because they seemed like standard bipedal life forms as far as I could tell.
Yeah. I don't know why they were first. It's it just wasn't discussed. I do have some criticism. Like I said, none of these are showstoppers at all. But
no, like we've said, it's a 6 or 7. That being said, yeah.
Jane Foster just randomly stumbling into the MacGuffin
right
at the beginning of the movie was
right. So as a result of this convergence, she's an astrophysicist. Is that right?
I think so.
The astrophysicist come Thor's would-be girlfriend, Jane Foster, is exploring this new phenomenon, which of course we find out later is the convergence, and she basically not basically, she literally, and I'm using that word correctly for once, she literally falls into a hole and lands beside the evil power that's threatening the universe.
And of course she tries to touch it. I mean, it's not obvious what it is, of course, and she's a curious scientist, whatever, but it's a large obelisk-like thing with a red crack and a swirling thing inside of it. So why not stick your arm in there?
Floating Kool-Aid of death. Yeah, why not inspect that carefully?
Yeah. So it gets all up in her, and then she falls back through the hole, back into reality. And I won't recount the whole plot for you here, but that part's pretty flimsy. But if you can get past that and just get on the, okay, we're off. Fine, whatever. It's not bad. I thought the whole Eric Selvig angle, I'm not really. It's like he was there for comic relief. They had him running around naked in his underwear, and that just seemed kind of pointlessly goofy.
I haven't understood the character in any movie he's been in, to be perfectly honest with you. I don't. His place in the Marvel Universe is dubious at best. In Thor, he is. I mean, is it because he's from Norway? I mean, right? The character Eric Selvig is a modern-day Norseman. Isn't that correct? Is
the impression I got.
Is that the point that they wanted to? Because he's one scientist of many in Thor. There's a gazillion other, characters that could have played similar roles. I'm just unsure of, but they keep going back to him. So Marvel clearly has this idea that he is a important character for X, Factor X, whatever that may be, but I don't know what it is. Like you say, in this movie, he was played as comic relief. I guess that's basically true in the first Thor as well, with, getting drunk.
Yeah, but at least he had a little more expository purpose.
In the Avengers, he was more like a manic. Yeah. It's almost a threatening character.
Right.
So,
the dodge there was that he was possessed by Loki.
Right.
Of course, come to think, when he showed up as in his his only scene of any substance in the Dark World, that was also for expository purposes.
Yep.
So, he's just a device, and I can't quite figure out what they want to do with him. So yeah, that was pretty goofy. Didn't really bother me. It was just kind of a why do this, type of thing.
I agree.
The whole, it's been argued, and I think correctly, that this is Marvel's romance arm. If we're going to get women to watch a Thor movie, or we're going to get women to watch a Marvel movie, rather, it's going to be Thor, is I think the thinking behind this.
Yeah, probably so.
Particularly with Loki's popularity with the ladies.
Well, they both are.
Yeah,
my wife mentioned that basically it's just a giant, yummy candy-like buffet. She thinks Hemsworth is hot. She thinks Loki's hot. The dude that the Heimdall, Idris Elba.
Mm-hmm.
Even the other guy, she likes the big dude Volstagg. I don't know who the actor is with the beard. The guy that plays Chuck,
Ray Stevenson.
There you go.
Volstagg. Yeah.
The guy that played Chuck on TV is in this movie.
Zachary
Levi. Yep.
Is, Fandral the Fair.
So I think, honestly, yes, and I don't think that's a coincidence. That's a lot of appealing 25 to 40-year-old men to jam into one movie.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But
whereas on the other hand, considering it's a superhero movie, Natalie Portman is extremely attractive, no doubt. Mm-hmm. But that's not necessary. She's also smart, and she's also kind of quirky. She's not, she's not Megan Fox. That's not who you go to draw teenage boys to a movie.
Right.
So yes. I think you may be onto something.
There's a little more there. And that's important because, you don't want to... I think Megan Fox would alienate women.
Yes, she does.
Yes.
She actively does.
Right. Whereas Natalie Portman has the opposite effect. That's somebody they can get on board with.
Right, and which is funny because Natalie Portman is still ridiculously attractive and smart. So I guess what I'm saying is women should be alienated by her. Because, I don't know, I guess it's just the vibe Megan Fox gives off that Natalie Portman seems to be about more than just her sexuality.
Right. And, of course, Kat Dennings as well.
Yep.
Can't forget her. Also quite attractive, and I think enough to the point they kind of went, a lot of that went to waste. I understand. Well, they don't want to emphasize that necessarily.
No, they don't, and I think they're trying to create a little bit of space between her and Portman.
Yeah. To
be perfectly honest, because Kat Dennings was in a heavy coat.
Right, with a toboggan
with a toboggan throughout the entirety of that movie.
And that's a stocking cap for you Yankees.
Yankees stocking cap. We call it toboggan down here, and that's what it is. But if you can't understand that, well, stocking cap.
Yeah, and glasses.
Right, throughout the whole movie. And those of you that don't know Kat Dennings, she's the star of the TV show Two Broke Girls.
Yep.
They don't have to put her in a heavy winter coat and a toboggan. She looks all right in other outfits.
Exactly. So yeah, just a lot of interesting behind the scenes things going on there. If you think too much about it, and this is a conversation we had last night. I think my issue with Thor in general, and we were on the same page with this, is just that Thor inherently is just not as interesting a character as the other Avengers.
Absolutely. He's a big, beautiful man.
Yeah, and I'm not, when I say the other Avengers, I'm talking about Hulk, Captain America, and Iron Man. I'm not counting
all the comic book guys.
Hawkeye and Black Widow in this.
No, you should not. No. You should not count them in this or anything.
I do find him more interesting than them, but yes, out of those four, I'd put him last.
The big guys.
Because, at the end of the day, all we could really find that interesting about Thor was he's just a badass.
He's big and strong.
Yeah, exactly. And it's cool to watch him smack stuff with the hammer.
It's my favorite part of every movie.
Yep.
He jumps up in the air at some point in each movie and knocks the shit out of something with meow meow.
My biggest gripe was that you didn't get to see Malekith get hit square in the face with it. There's not enough face to hammer contact in the movie.
There isn't in general.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there's only a few guys you can do that with,
That's
right?
true.
Because most of the time, if you hit a guy in the face, if Thor hits a guy in the face with his hammer, he's going to disintegrate.
Yep.
So he could maybe do it to the Hulk at some point.
Well, he did do it to the Hulk.
Yeah.
And the Hulk...
It hurt.
Yeah. The Hulk noticed, but that was about it. He got right back. It served only to piss him off more. But yeah, what we're saying is, hitting people in the face with the hammer. That's the kind of thing we want to see more of. I wanted that curse fight to go better, actually, now that you mention it.
Yeah. That was a weird fight. I mean, he whipped Thor's ass for 10 minutes and then got rescued by Loki.
Yeah, exactly. And somebody who can swat away Mjolnir, just
backhand it.
By the way, the idea that he can be stabbed, and now granted that wasn't what killed him. That just got his attention, but that it would even break the skin is suspect.
Especially when it's Loki doing the stabbing.
Yeah. It was one of those black hole grenades that finished him off, of course. But
Loki is not badass in terms of Asgardians.
No, I mean he whipped up on some elves.
Sure,
but yeah,
of course.
Which it was nice to see him have some kind of skills.
Well, yeah. To me, I remarked in a tweet last week that they should have called it "The Adventures of Loki in Lighting Effects World,"
right?
Because to me, the most interesting thing about the Thor movies is Loki, and
I don't think you get a lot of argument on that either.
Right. I don't think so either. I mean, Loki's clearly, even the kids, we went to see it with some kids, and even the kids were remarking that they liked Loki better than Thor.
Yeah, and again, Thor just doesn't have a ton of depth to him.
Yes.
And all the depth he does have is in his relationships with other people, particularly Loki.
Yeah, and his father.
Yeah, I think they could do a better job of, and they did do a pretty good job in this one, but they could do better of just the sort of conflict he feels about his relationship with Loki, because, of course, in Marvel Comics, that's why Loki stays around, because Thor doesn't have it in him to kill him, basically. Right. And that's essentially what they hint around in this movie, but it's just not illustrated well, I don't think. It is that it's basically that brotherly connection that keeps Loki alive.
Well, that's exactly right. That's exactly right, because Thor could snap his neck like a twig at any point.
Yep. So, but yeah, I like that we will probably see more Loki from the looks of things. I thought it was funny. Somebody posted a clip where they caught up with Tom Hiddleston on the red carpet and were like, "This could be your last Marvel premiere. How do you feel about that?" And I'm like, after the end of this movie, I don't think that's Loki's last appearance in a Marvel movie.
Unless Tom Hiddleston just doesn't want to.
Yeah, or if he up and dies or something, because. You can't get much more open-ended than the tail end of Thor there with Loki sitting on the throne of Asgard. So many questions. What happened to Odin? What he subdued somehow. Obviously, he's not dead.
Now, don't be bitching and crying. We told you there was going to be a whole lot of spoilers, didn't we say that? We said it. Yes. We said it. So yes, if you don't,
in the show notes too.
We kind of jumped over a few things there. So again, we don't want to recount the plot, but at the end of the movie, you get the initial impression that Loki is killed in battle.
Right.
But by the end of the movie, we see that in point of fact, he has survived, and he is now he impersonates Odin.
Yep. And
is sitting as Odin on the throne of Asgard.
Yep. Now they don't, unless you're just not paying attention at all, they make it pretty clear Loki does live.
Mm-hmm.
Because you see Loki's transform effect kind of slightly off screen, and then you see a green-eyed Asgardian report to Odin that a body was found, and he asks if it's Loki, and so you can safely assume Loki is not dead. But then the fact that he shows up as Odin is a pretty big shocker, and not kind of oh my god, what the fuck kind of thing. It's kind of oh, this will be cool for the next movie, because
it's probably not easy to whip Odin's ass.
No.
So one wonders what transpired off screen that would even allow Loki to get away with this.
Yeah, and you're just forced to assume that Loki is as Loki does, and he did something sneaky, and Odin is gone or incapacitated somehow.
And while we're putting our dicks in the punch bowl, we may as well swish them around a little bit and say Thor's mom, Odin's wife, gets offed in the movie.
Yep,
gets killed by the cursed.
Yep, and which I thought was, I don't know, there's kind of a cheap, needless death. I thought. I mean, it served the purpose of getting, of having Thor and Loki work together.
Right. That was its only reason really for existing, was making it somehow believable that Thor. In other words, why would Thor ever trust Loki? And the idea is that Loki was going to go along with it because he wanted to avenge his mother's death.
Yeah.
And Thor, as Loki actually says, there's a line in the movie where Loki tells Thor, well, if you can't trust me, trust my rage.
Yep.
And that's sort of the theme, is that Loki is being called upon to help, and Thor's allowing this because whatever else Loki may do, he trusts that first and foremost he wants to avenge the death of the mother that he clearly still loves. And they built in some time in the movie wisely
to show spell that out. Yeah.
Is it Frigga or Frigga?
Anthony Hopkins says Frigga.
He says Frigger, actually.
Frigger. But
it's only because of Frigger that you're still alive.
But
love your suit.
I would have previously said Frigga, but
whatever her name is, what we're trying to say, Thor's mama. They wisely spent time showing her and Loki interact and establishing that for all that has transpired, and Loki's relationship with his father is obviously complicated, but he loves his mother unconditionally still.
Yeah. So you can... Thor's thinking, and this would be my thinking, I can trust you up until the point this mission is complete.
Right.
After that, it would not shock me at all if you tried to stab me in the spleen.
Exactly.
And that's the wise way of thinking of it. So yeah, a great setup for the next Thor, or whatever they want to do with it.
Absolutely.
And then speaking of setting things up, the mid credits. Marvel's getting a little silly. We have the stinger at the end and the mid credits, and then after the credits, and you don't know what's going to be the joke and what's going to be the leader to the next movie. But the mid credit scene, I thought was cool.
Mm-hmm.
I saw some criticism, which really depends on what side you fall on, because it's and you have to remember. And it's easy to forget, the spin Marvel has put on the Asgardians is that they're aliens.
Correct.
That they live on a planet in space.
They've gone with a science fiction tack.
Right. And, you can see that with the elves, who are very science fiction-y, floating around a spaceship. They had laser guns, etc., which I thought was pretty cool, by the way.
Singularity grenades, grenades that you throw them and they create a miniature black hole. Those were pretty awesome.
Just vacuum up some poor bastard Asgardians.
Yep.
But yeah, so anyway, bearing that in mind, that we are, despite all appearances, in a science fiction universe.
The science fictionalization of Thor.
Yep. The mid-credit scene, it leads into Guardians of the Galaxy pretty plainly.
Right. So
they're visiting an alien.
That's the next Marvel movie, right? Yep. So they got to set it up.
Well, actually... I don't know the exact date of Guardians' release, but I know Captain America's April of next year. So I actually don't know if Guardians will make it out the door before he does. But
that's true. I don't know either. I'd have to look it up.
Yeah. At any rate,
and we will do that for you, gentle listener.
Yes, you can do that while I yammer. But you had the Collector and an alien functionary of his, and they mention did they call them the Infinity Gems or the Infinity Stones?
Stones,
yeah.
Yep.
Which, and I guess that makes more sense because it's not literally a gem. So,
right.
But they essentially say that we'll call it the Tesseract because that's its name in the movie, but the Cosmic Cube is the first stone, implying that the Aether is the second, and so that Asgard is in possession of one, and they don't want to put all their eggs in one basket, so they're giving this guy, the Collector, the second one. And they give it to the Collector, and of course, after they shuffle away, the Collector's like, 1 down, 5 to go. So that's pretty cut and dry that they're heading toward the Infinity Gauntlet at some point.
Right. And we saw the Infinity Gauntlet briefly in the first Thor movie.
Yeah, like literally one frame of footage.
Yep.
It was just before the Destroyer vaporized some dudes there when they were trying to rob the vault.
Probably couldn't have even seen it in real time.
Yeah, I had to frame by frame it. Even when I knew where to look, I literally had to sit there and go, oh, there it is. And, it's visible for like that,
Yep.
But it is in there. And, that was just them showing off. I imagine at that point they didn't have the full plan laid out. Or maybe they did. Who the hell knows?
Well, right, and it does bring up an interesting point, because if you put that in your movie, can you then just ignore that it happened? Because no matter how brief a time, it was in there.
Yeah.
The Infinity Gauntlet was shown in, Odin's vault.
Yep.
So are they going to just ignore that occurred? And they may. But it was, it was the Infinity Gauntlet, and it looked like all the gems were in place.
Well, that's the other weird thing. Like, we saw the Gauntlet. So is the Gauntlet in and of itself a powerful thing? And then by joining it with these other things, does it become more powerful?
Right.
Because, the idea that they would have the complete Infinity Gauntlet in there is pretty wild.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, because that's...
I kind of get the impression that it wasn't really meant to make it to the final released cut of the movie.
Right, and that's probably why it's only in there a second. You ask any human watching it if they saw it when they saw the movie, I can guarantee you they didn't. There's just no way.
No. And for example, Marvel's done this before. No, this actually didn't make it into the final release, but Marvel has done it, this type of thing before, where they did just ignore that it occurred. For example, The Incredible Hulk, at the very beginning of that, there was a scene cut out showing the Hulk rampaging around the North. And, the icy upper reaches.
Like the Arctic Circle.
Exactly. And when he's raging and rampaging around and just breaking big-ass chunks of ice, you briefly see the frozen Captain America.
Yep.
In one of the chunks of ice, which they never revisited. And, of course, they didn't mention when they thawed out Captain America.
Yep, and it ended up not going that way anyhow because they didn't show Cap being rescued, but he would have been found in the seat of an airplane. So
right, correct. He wouldn't have been just in a random ice chunk.
Right. So it's good that they didn't end up putting that in there because that would have created problems.
Mm-hmm. So that's my take on that, is that probably they never meant for that to.
Yeah, exactly. Because
get released.
It's too big a thing to hang out there because, like you said, they did show it. So, I think it's safe to say that doesn't even count as having shown it in Thor, as far as I'm concerned. But now they've made it plain. They're heading toward the Infinity Gauntlet, which, for those of you who don't know, is I think at this point probably still the most powerful thing in all of the Marvel Universe. They can...
used to be the Cosmic Cube.
Yep, but they stepped it up. So basically, how do I shorthand this? It's a wish granting glove.
It's a metal glove that when you array these things called the Infinity Gems in the comic books, but the movies are calling them Infinity Stones.
Yep.
When you array them across the knuckles, there's 6 of them.
Yep.
You array them across the knuckles and one in the middle. You put all these gems into this gauntlet. You basically have the power not just of a god, but of the most powerful god imaginable, where anything that you can think can immediately be transmuted into reality.
Yep, and it has no range, so you basically can affect the whole of reality.
Yes, anything, anywhere, at any time.
Yep.
Like if I wanted to bring Benjamin Franklin to this kitchen/studio right now, if I had the Infinity Gauntlet, I could do that.
Yep. You could erase him from history as if he'd never existed.
Yep. Anything you could think of.
You could kill half the population of the universe, which is what Thanos did with it.
Which sounds ridiculous.
Because it is.
But Jim Starlin, a Marvel mainstay, wrote these deeply philosophical stories. And the stories are really, you think they're about these huge forces battling against each other, and what they really are is an examination of the nature of power and things like that. Right. So he used it for a shorthand. Now, making that into a movie that, the masses are going to want to consume is going to be a trick.
Yeah. And, we kind of speculated on where, like, how they're going to translate it. They're calling them Infinity Stones. They basically said the Tesseract was one, the Aether was another. I saw in an interview with Kevin Feige, which I now know how to pronounce that name, thanks to Chris Hardwick's podcast.
Feige.
He said that. Now, I don't know how offhanded a comment this was, but he referred to the Tesseract as the Space Stone.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that means, because again, in the comics, each of these stones masters a different segment of things, like
certain property.
Yeah, you've got time, for instance, in space, and etc. And it's the joining of them that gives you the ultimate power. If you have just one, you're very powerful, but you're not omnipotent.
Correct. Gotcha.
It's the joining of the 6 that makes you omnipotent. So we were speculating, is Marvel going to just say each of these things is very powerful, and the joining of all of them adds up to a super powerful thing that is unparalleled and unstoppable, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Which seems like the simpler, smarter way to go. Or are they actually going to say each one has this particular talent? Because really, if you look at the Aether and the Tesseract and what the hell ever, it's hard to say what the difference is between them as far as what they allow you to do.
They're things you can hold on to and make a lot of beams of energy shoot out of your body.
Right, exactly. You can fuck a lot of shit up.
Yeah.
Because we talk, let's see if I can name the Infinity Gems. You've got time, space, power, soul, mind, reality.
Reality. There you go. That's it.
And the 2 we've seen blend easily into space, into reality, and into power. So, basically, at this point, Marvel can call them whatever the hell they want, basically. Mm-hmm. The question is, will they bother? And, I think it's just as easy not to bother at this point. But in that same discussion, Feige said that Guardians of the Galaxy will feature a 3rd gem or stone that we have not seen yet. So that pretty much spells it out as far as I'm concerned. That, and of course, Avengers 2 is going to be Ultron. We've already heard that.
Yes.
So I think that... Go ahead, sir.
No, which is kind of funny because when you think about it, they've done a lot more with Thanos and Infinity Gems than they have with, as far as I know, there's been no mention of Ultron or Hank Pym or the Vision or anything surrounding the Ultron mythos in any of the movies, and yet that is going to be obviously the main bad guy and the central plot device of the second Avengers movie.
Yep. He almost seems disposable We're just giving you some random baddie to fight.
Yep.
While we build up to Avengers 3 I think everything points to that.
Because surely they're building toward Thanos wielding the Infinity Gauntlet.
Yeah, I don't know many other ways it could go at this point because we agree that Thanos is too big he probably will appear in Guardians of the Galaxy in some form, but he will not be the villain, I don't think. Or he could be the villain in his lesser...
Yeah, those are people that don't know Thanos. Thanos is from Titan.
Yep, that's the moon orbiting... is it Jupiter or Saturn?
I can't remember. But he's a Titan, and very powerful by himself, but, just like Incredible Hulk powerful, super strong villain powerful. Not
he and Thor could get into a big fight and fuck some shit up.
Yeah, and Thor would win.
Yep.
So, but with the Infinity Gauntlet, he becomes infinitely powerful, and in the Jim Starlin series, the Infinity Gauntlet, this is exactly what happens, because if you don't know anything about Thanos, he has a crush on Death. Mm-hmm. In the Marvel Universe, Death is a woman and is personified as a real person/character that you can hang out with and go out on a date with.
Yeah, and they do this pretty common practice in comic books, actually, but especially in Marvel. If there's some cosmic concept they want to play around with, they turn it into a person.
A dude, yeah. In this case, a lady. And Thanos is in love with her, and this is why he gets the gauntlet and kills half the universe to try to impress her.
Right, which does not work, we might add.
Well, of course, she's Death.
Spoiler.
But that was the whole key behind the gag at the end of the Avengers movie, where he says to battle humanity and humans is to court death.
Yep.
Because Thanos does, in fact, literally court death.
Yep. Another correct usage of literally.
That's too shit.
Yeah, man.
Woo!
Kicking ass. So yeah, I think that's pretty clearly where we're heading with Avengers 3. Because no other movie's big enough to contain that final battle.
Well, we're getting near the end. We probably should wrap up. But just last thing I had to say on that whole Thanos, Infinity Gauntlet, Thor, blah, blah, blah shit is that I did read, and this definitely was an Entertainment Weekly, one reviewer is trying to suss all this out just like we've been sitting here doing, and he thought that they are going to, or thought that at least there was a strong possibility from the way he's interpreting the facts and what Marvel has chosen to show, that they're going to maybe spin off the Infinity Gauntlet into a whole other trilogy of movies. Like maybe do it like the Lord of the Rings, like all the other individual movies within the Marvel movie universe would kind of lead up to it, and then they would spin it off into the Infinity Gauntlet, which would be its own 3-part or 2 or 3-part movie series like Lord of the Rings, where all of the different characters would come in and out of the story over the course of 3 movies.
Holy moly. That's ambitious, but at this point, Marvel can kind of do no wrong.
It really, in a lot of ways, it really makes a lot of sense. When I read it, at first I thought, God, that's fucked up. But then I thought about it a little while longer, and I said, that's fucked up. And then I thought about it yet another while longer and thought, that's not that unreasonable, because the number of hints that they're dropping about the Infinity Gauntlet and Thanos, it seems like a lot to encompass just for, a fight in a potential villain for one movie in Avengers 3.
Yeah, that's true. They're making him into Sauron, essentially.
Yeah, because when you think about it, in order to get the whole story of the Stones told, the whole story of the Infinity Gauntlet told, you're talking about a whole bunch of movies. It will have ended up being 8, 9, 10 movies that it took to set this thing up.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, Avengers, so you've got Avengers, that gives you the, and really you can drag Captain America in that. That gives you the Tesseract and Thanos himself. Mm-hmm. And then you've got Thor: The Dark World. It gives you the second Infinity Stone. Guardians of the Galaxy is going to have the next one,
which we think probably Thanos is going to figure in fairly prominently
somehow. So you're up to 4 movies there
already,
and depending on how you want to play out the rest of it, like, do you want 1 gem per movie?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want the final movie to be the acquisition of the final gem? And and there's a lot of ways they could play that. Maybe the last movie is trying to stop Thanos from getting the last gem,
mm-hmm.
And then at the end he does get it, and shit gets fucked up, but they ultimately prevail, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I really got kind of excited. I got kind of a nerd boner after I read that, because that really makes a lot of sense. Infinity Gauntlet is in a lot of ways the premier superhero crossover, really, of all time. And if you were going to split it off and have all your characters come in and out of one big movie, that would be the one to do.
That's the one. Yep. It's natural, and it's the other purpose of having to do this over multiple movies is getting the audience there,
mm-hmm.
knowing what they need to know, you'll have all the stakes you need going in, because of course we comic nerds, we know the story of the Infinity Gauntlet, so we're built in, but
we'll be there.
Yeah, exactly. But if we're going to drag this out to like 2019, stocking it up, I guess the only challenge would be locking up the actors for all that amount of time,
Mm-hmm.
And now Marvel has shown that they're not afraid to switch actors when they need to, but you'd rather not have to if you could help it.
And also they're going to have to, de-emphasize some characters and overemphasize some characters to get to the right spot. Because right now, kind of like where they are with Wolverine and X-Men, Tony Stark and Iron Man, Tony Stark is the preeminent character in the Marvel Universe, bar none.
Yeah.
He's considerably more important and more significant than any other character.
Yep.
But he can't be the dude fighting Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet.
Right.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know how they're going to play that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be neat to see, I'm sure.
If you've never read the series, and most of you don't because you don't live the sad childhoods that we did, but if you've never read the series, basically it climaxes with essentially the entire canon of Marvel superheroes throwing themselves against Thanos.
Yep. And Thanos kills each one of them in turn in various horrific ways.
Yes.
But who's the last man standing?
Who is always the last man standing, dude?
Captain Goddamn America.
Captain by God America.
That A on his hat.
It don't stand for France.
Exactly, as he famously said. So I'm still waiting to hear him say that in a movie, by the way.
It's wrong if they don't.
Yep. So yeah, y'all should read that. It's good. You should read comics in general, but I don't know if I haven't looked to see if it's available on Marvel Unlimited. I'd like to check that
Yes,
out.
it was as of 3 months ago. Okay. I read it over the summer, but I haven't looked lately.
Probably still is. Things that appear don't tend to disappear like Netflix. Once they put it up, I think it stays.
Well, then, yeah, it's up there.
So, cool. Well, this is certainly something we could geek about into infinity, appropriately enough.
Yes,
but,
indeed.
We've been at it about an hour and 15 minutes, so that's probably enough for y'all. So we'll wrap it up. And so next week, I'm not quite sure what we'll talk about exactly, but we'll have seen Total Recall and Life Force.
We trust nerdy shit will happen between now and then.
Maybe we'll try and see Man of Steel. Talk about that.
We haven't talked about tech much. We probably need to in the last couple podcasts. So maybe a few more tech items in the next one.
Into that. Yep.
I was able to spend a considerable amount of time as one of my family members brought a Nintendo 2DS to the house.
Oh,
so I have some comments I could make about that.
Cool. All right. We'll look for it next week. We'll see y'all later.
Later.